What do you see as kind of the timeline for how this roster is built? I think the Heat have one of the more interesting rosters in the
Yeah.
NBA in terms of, like you just mentioned, that starting lineup. I mean, there's a mix of a youth movement and like veteran leadership, obviously all-star level talent there too. Um, what do you think their window is right now looking at this roster?
It's an awesome question. I have no idea. It's if you were to kind of rank the players on the Heat's roster right now, I think you would say number one is Jimmy Butler, number two is Bam Adebayo, number three is Kyle Lowry, and number four is probably Tyler Hero, right? But I think for the Heat to sort of reach their ceiling as far as like a favorite type of team in the East, right? Like in that crust with Milwaukee and Brooklyn. I think Bam has to be their best player, and Tyler
Yeah.
Hero has to probably be in the top three there. And so I think their ceiling kind of goes with the young guys, but like the floor is raised by that veteran group. So, but I don't know, like, can you make a finals if Jimmy Butler is sort of in the twilight of his career? Can you do that if Kyle Lowry isn't as effective through an 82 game and a 16 game playoff? I don't know. I really don't. I have no idea. That's where I think the Heat are banking on their conditioning, all that Heat culture stuff that you hear about. They're hoping that they can at least get these primes to extend maybe a year longer, a year or two longer than they maybe would have in another city in the NBA. If they could do that, then I think their window is right now. And then who knows? Like everybody says, there's no ceiling on Bam Adebayo, and I think if you have one of the best 10 players in the NBA, you give yourself a chance. And if there's no ceiling, then Bam could be one of those players. Maybe Tyler Hero could be one of the best 30 players in the NBA. If that's the case, then that's like another window, and the Heat just have to figure out how to put the pieces in around them. Now, there's some cap stuff that we don't really want to get into because that's boring that they have to deal with. But this front office has made figured those kinds of wacky numbers out in the past, and they probably can again.
Yeah, I think there's no lack of confidence, especially this offseason, reinvigorating it, if nothing else. And of course, you
Yeah.
guys have kind of had that, I would guess, extension of confidence with the bubble run, and that being that kind of unexpected rise. But along those lines, I wanted to ask, what is the feel like in the city and the community with this Miami Heat team? Is it
Yeah.
they're just kind of like dominating the sports landscape in there? What is it? What is the feel in Miami?
Well, the Dolphins suck. The Marlins suck. The Panthers are like 6-0, I think, the time we're recording this. So the NA, but there's not a whole lot of ice hockey fans in South Florida, believe it or not.
Shocker.
Um, so and look, the like football is king here, but like between the Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes haven't been any good either. I think people are like craving just a winner, and that's kind of the void the Miami Heat have filled down here for years. The Dolphins have been lousy for 20 years, and the Heat have won 3 championships. Like they're kind of the team that wins here, and it's nice that the NFL season starts, and then you kind of, oh yeah, the Dolphins, we suck again. Okay, good to know. Let's go. Let's move on to basketball now. And I think that's kind of where people are right now with the Heat. They're just like, all right, thank God basketball season is back.
What do you think is Pat Riley's, patience levels going to be? You mentioned just kind of the shelf life with, Lowry's up there. You mentioned Jimmy Butler's up there in age. If things are not going, according to plan, next year, when do you think there might be some roster moves in terms of maybe some trades or reevaluating this roster in terms of not Amabayo or Tyler Hero, but certainly with Lowry and Jimmy Butler, who has a lot of mileage on him. I love Jimmy Butler. I'm a huge Bulls fan, so I'm incredibly loyal to him. I think he's awesome. But at the same time, the wear and tear is just like a shelf life there. So, if things are not going in that, winning direction in terms of deep playoff runs, when do you think the Heat might pull the plug and go in a more younger direction?
I don't know that they even can. Like I don't I you could probably trade Jimmy Butler. I don't know that you could probably trade Kyle Lowry too right now, but like they're not looking to do that. Like
Yeah.
if like what you're talking about, Justin, is going to happen, then it's probably going to happen a year, 2 years from now. I don't know. I don't know who takes on those contracts for people at that age. I think better or worse, they're kind of stuck with that group the way it is. I will say this in regards to Riley's patience, they've maintained an open roster spot. They only have 14 players under guaranteed contracts right now. They are very, very close to dipping into the luxury tax, but they're not there yet. I would say if by the trade deadline, sort of buyout market season, stuff like that, if they feel like they have a chance then I could see them making a similar move that they did like 2 years ago, where they just went out and said, you know what, let's go get an Andre Iguodala, somebody who fills a need, can make an impact, can move the needle for us a little bit, and say, you know what, let's go ahead and spend. We're going to dip into that luxury tax. We don't care. We're going to risk getting into the repeater tax, all the penalties that come with that, because we're going to give ourselves a chance. As far as patience, that's where I see Riley having no patience. I think he can go up to Mickey Harrison, the owner of the Heat, and just say, hey, we got ourselves a chance. I just need to be able to go get this player so-and-so on the buyout market. Give me the money. Open up, write the check. Let's go make it happen. And so I think Riley will always be looking to tinker and make moves. And that to me speaks to the little amount of patience he has. Like when patience wears thin with Riley, it's not let's blow this up and go younger. When patience, gets thin for Riley, he does what he did this last summer. He says, I don't care how old they are. Let's go make it happen right now.
With Riley, is there any sense? I mean, he's done an excellent job in Miami. I mean, there's no other way around it. He's a legend there. He's a legend in a lot of places. He can stay as long as he would like. Is there any sense of him slowing down at this point? Any sense of how much longer he tends to be with the franchise?
I can't imagine it's going to be for all that longer, but we've been saying that for like 10 years now. Like,
Yeah.
When was that? What was that ESPN story that written about he had like a Corvette or something in Los Angeles, like on a beach house, and he's just been waiting to retire to this beach house or whatever it was. And that was was that written like 5 years ago? Like that was like the magnum opus of his like profile stories on him. But so yeah, I don't freaking know, man. Like, I have no clue. As far as him stepping back, I don't think it'll ever happen. While he has a position with the Heat. Like, I don't think he'll just be like, all right, this new person's going to be president. And I'm like, he might be like a consultant, but I think it'd be like in an unofficial role. But one thing is very clear is he wants to win a championship very soon. And I think there's I think there's still a little bit of LeBron left us and we want to win a championship after that, because we weren't all just LeBron and that big three. Like, we set up that foundation, and there was a lot riding on that 2019 finals. I mean, Eric Spoelstra breaking down into tears when the Heat lost that final series. There is a hunger about this group. Like, I think there's a lot of different people in positions of power that have a lot of different motivations for wanting to win a title, but they certainly want to win a title. And I think it all stems from LeBron leaving. And there's sort of like we got to prove it to everybody still, even despite them having championships on their resumes. And I don't think, if it's up to Riley and health is working with him, I don't think he'll leave until that happens. But, that's not everybody gets to write their storybook ending, but that's the one he's shooting for.
And is Riley, I'm going to kind of like Twitter talk with Heat culture and stuff like that. We've mentioned it a couple times. Seems like it always comes up. Zach Lowe laughs about it a lot on his podcast. Is that like mentality that stems from Riley down the organization, or what do you think is kind of the, I don't know, defining like driver of that?
I think it started with Riley. That's what he brought over when he came to Miami in the 90s. I think it starts with him. But I think it's evolved, right? I think it's a lot of Eric Spoelstra. I think it's a lot of Alonzo Mourning. I think it's a lot of Dwayne Wade. It's a lot of Udonis Haslem. There's even a little bit of Shaquille O'Neal in there as far as, hey, you know what? We're a star location. I think that there's a mix of anybody who's walked through those doors and has made some sort of impact. I just think that culture has evolved. So I think, again, it started with Riley, but they have went out and gotten certain guys. And I think that's when you look at these offseason additions, and I wrote about this over on my Substack about how when they went out this offseason, when they got swept, they went out this offseason knowing that they needed to find guys who can create their own spin and add to whatever that culture, quote unquote culture, is. They went out and got Kyle Lowry. They went out and got PJ Tucker. Those guys bring something, that championship mentality. They are the only guys outside of Udonis Haslem, by the way, in that locker room who have a championship ring, and people tend to forget that. So I just think it's all of those guys. But at the end of the day, it's just it's an unselfishness, and it's hard work, and it's keeping your body fat low, and it's being the most fit, hungriest, ugliest, meanest team in the NBA, like Riley likes to say. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's just all talk. I don't know if it's just hashtags for Twitter. I will say this: the players buy into it. It's real for them, and that's really what that's kind of what matters. You know, I
Yeah.
remember I just talked to PJ Tucker. He's like, no, that culture is real. I was like, all right, it got you to sign a 2-year deal. So I guess that's all that counts.